In the last class, we had discussed about what is language integrated query, and we had seen some introduction and some programs we had tried in the last class. Those who have not seen that, please do check when you have time. Okay, in this class, I'm going to quickly revise till what we had seen in the last and then go to the new ones. Okay, so basically, what is language integrated query? It is a way of writing C# code to manipulate data rather than writing SQL code to manipulate it. Okay, so so far what we have seen is any technology you take up, let us say, let it be Java, PHP, MySQL, or Android, or even SQLite with Python, whatever you have taken up, we have written Java or Python or PHP code, and we embed it. Okay, we embed SQL code inside our programming languages. Okay, even in .NET, just before we started with this ADO.NET, you write SQL code inside double quote saying that select star from, insert into, all those things. So in order to avoid the confusion of learning another language like structured query language or SQL, okay, instead of that, we learn only programming language, and the query, what we need to do to the database is integrated through the language itself, not through another language. Okay. So that is the idea of this, and I'll just quickly go through what we had seen in the previous classes. Okay, we had seen what are LINQ, what are building blocks of that, and what are the sequences, and what are some query operators and expressions we had seen in the last class. Today we'll continue with that. Okay, so normally this was the introduction I gave. That is, software developers normally take a lot of time to date. We normally only look at manipulating data. Okay, we take some data, we process it, we give some output. Okay, that's how normally we work with, and that data can come from an XML file or a normal file. Okay, it can come from arrays, it can come from list, in other words collections, or it can come from a database, or it can come from an XML document, it can come from a text.dat file, anything it is. Okay, so we get data in different ways, and from .NET 3.5 onwards, we use a technology called LINQ, which is short form for language integrated query. Okay, and it's a simplified process. What are the building blocks? It is just an extension to the .NET framework. It is built on top of .NET framework and ADO.NET. Okay, so on that manner, and it is normally used to obtain and manipulate data in a broad sense. Okay, I'll show you how it works shortly, but basically it is written or directly written with C# as the programming language, and not SQL here. No queries, even though it is written like a query language, but it is not evaluated by the database, rather it is evaluated by C# itself. That's the idea. Not only C#, guys, VB also is fine, but since we are learning C#, I'm emphasizing the word C#. Okay, please note LINQ also works in VB. That's the idea of .NET, right? Doesn't matter which language you choose. Okay, and then I think I spoke about what can you manipulate using language integrated query. Okay, there are so many things which you can take up, but only one condition is there: anything which is enumeratable. Okay, whichever you can enumerate can be considered, or can be queried, or can be integrated with language integrated query. Example: any object, collection of object, relational databases, XML documents, etc. Okay, and they are all based on numerous SQL like query operators. All right, let me give you a simple example to understand what all these things are. Now, normally imagine if I'm writing insert into table name. Okay, if I write something wrong in that query, that double quote what I'm typing, okay, that is normally considered as string by your programming languages. Whatever language we have written so far, PHP, MySQL, or Java, or JSP Servlet, whatever we have done, whatever we write inside double quote is assumed as string, which means it will not check whether it is right or wrong. So if you want to find out if there is any mistake in my SQL query I've written, there's only one way: that you run the program. You execute the program, it should go to the server, database server. Database server should throw an error saying that this is a mistake and this SQL is not going to work. Okay, that is how we traditionally work with. But what if I write the query in C#, and if there is any mistake, C# would throw me a compiler error directly before even I could run it. Okay, that's where we bring in language integrated query, and it is designed to look and feel like SQL only. All right. So let me just quickly go through all these things. These are the things which we saw in the last class. Please do refer the previous video to understand all these things. I've given more than enough explanation for this. So please do refer to that. Okay, let me just go to the diagram. We have top, we have language, whatever language you are talking about. Okay, and then comes, there are three segments there at the bottom most. Topmost you have language, which we are going to choose as C#. At the bottom most you have objects. Then you have relational data. Then you have XML. Okay, these are all, if you see all these three, basically they are a collection of data. Okay, not any object, guys. Please be very careful of the word which I've used there. It is just written as object, but in the PPT I've clearly mentioned objects that extend from an interface called IEnumerable. Okay, I is a short form for, or is an indicator of interfaces. Okay, it should be implemented from an enumerable interface. Please note the word. In other words, you cannot query integer. You can query an int array. I hope you get the difference. Int is not an object. Integer array is an object. I hope you guys follow, right? So, for example, when it comes to value types and reference type, value types are basically not a big collection. They are normally data types. Okay, but reference type, you have classes, you have objects, you have string, you have array list. All these things are collections. They are collections. You can only query a collection. If it is, for example, int I, you just need to print that I. That's all. That's not a collection. But if it's an int array of elements, then if you want to access an element, for example, I have an int array with 1 to 10 as numbers, and I want to print only even numbers. Okay, which means I'm querying. I'm asking that array to print out only even numbers. Okay, that's a query because there is more than one element there. Okay, that is a collection. That's what on the left hand side you see objects, and the total extreme end you have XML. XML also is a perfect store of data. Okay, that's what I showed you in another class. If you remember that we converted an access file. Okay, there's an access database. I exported it to XML. That also holds the same data as a relational database. Okay, size was smaller, but still it's a file-based database. It's XML. It's structured, but okay. So those two are on the left hand side and right hand side. You see they don't have special software as such. But what is there in the middle? Relational data. That depends on what database you want to use. It can be SQL, it can be Microsoft SQL, MySQL, or Oracle or PostgreSQL, whatever you are trying to use. That's relational data. Okay, it can be Access, it can be SQLite, whatever it is. All right, so based on what data base you are using, my query will completely change. That's how we have been rating so far. Okay, like for example, JDBC, you'll have to change the connection string, you have to change everything there. Okay, but when it comes to code, you'll also have to change a few things if you are writing advanced code. If it is just select, insert and update, no difference will be there in the databases. But if you are doing cardinality, if you have more join operations, when you have complicated queries, not all queries of the databases are same. Not all Oracle queries will work in MySQL and vice versa. Okay, so you'll have to think about queries and all those things. It's too much to learn for a programmer, not only just manipulating data, plus also looking into databases. So what we are trying to do here is basically we are trying to write everything in C# so that you change whatever database you want. Okay, today you are familiar with MySQL, so you are using MySQL. Tomorrow the company asks you to use Microsoft SQL, you should use Microsoft SQL. But the code what I've changed or what I've written should not change. That's my idea of bringing in language integrated query. Okay, the concept should be there, not that I don't care about the data stored. That's the idea. And you see that the word here is LINQ enabled ADO.NET. Okay, the moment the word ADO.NET comes, you should understand it's database oriented. Okay, so here this is all, these three all are database related. One, link to data set. Data set is nothing but disconnected architecture, which is part of ADO.NET. Then link to SQL, writing just simple SQL. That's what we are going to do more here. Okay. Then link to entities, which is our next step. Okay. So we have done all these things. First thing we have finished. All right. That is just plain ADO.NET we used. Today or this class onwards, we'll be using link to SQL. Okay. We write SQL query with language, this C# language. And then finally, third part of our database would be a link to entities, which is entity framework. That's our next step. Okay, so this is how we'll be moving on. And this is the diagram. Let me quickly finish this. Okay, what are the query operations which we are supposed to do? Okay, as I told in the last class, SQL goes in this fashion. SQL tells what to select first, then from where to select, then if there are any conditions. Okay, for example, select star from table name where so and so. Okay, please note here you are telling what to select, then saying from where to select, then is there any filter, and then you can order by, group by, etc, etc. You can keep on adding. Okay, but when it comes to language integrated query, the first thing you need to do is to tell from where. That's very, very important here. Okay, please note you cannot access a variable without creating it. Okay, so first you have to create the data store. From where? Okay, and then if you have any conditions, tell those conditions, put order by, group by, whatever it is, then select, give the operation. That's what it is mentioned here. Obtain the data source first, then create the query. Create the query in the sense where order by, group by, all these conditions and all are the query for you. Finally, you execute the query. So if select star from table name where id is equal to so and so is written in your SQL, in LINQ you will write from where, from database, where id equal to so and so, select whatever you want. It will be in this fashion. I hope you got it. I'll show you an example that will be better. Okay, so that is our thing. What is the advantage of using language integrated query? Number one, you don't need to learn a new language called SQL, and you need not change it for each and every database. The coding would be comparatively less compared to what we have written already. Okay, and the code becomes very much readable, because if you see last code and all what I wrote, update and insert, it went this way to a lengthier code, because you have to write update, table, set, value equal to that, value equal to this, so many things you have to write. Okay, the query is itself is huge, which means it makes it very big. Okay, it's not that easy to read also, but LINQ makes the code very simple, very much readable. Okay, that's very important. And moving on, it is also a standardized way of writing query. It doesn't matter which data store you are using. Please note multiple data sources. I'll show how it is working. And then compile time safety. That's what I also told you earlier. Okay, your errors, whatever if you have, will be shown to you before even you run the program. Till now, traditional approach, you have to run the program to find out what was the mistake. Yesterday also, or the previous class when I did that drop down cutting, okay, I have to run the program to find out what is the mistake I made. Okay, but here you will have that thrown to you even if before you run the program. Okay, compile time safety. And obviously IntelliSense support. Now to explain this, let's just think like this. When I write select star from or insert into table name inside C# or inside JDBC or inside PHP or MySQL, whatever it is, please note your ID will not give you suggestions because you're writing within double quotes. When you write within double quotes, it automatically assumes that it is a string, and you won't get suggestions for string. Notepad ++ you might get, but the traditional ID will not give you any suggestions when you put double quote. Okay, I hope you remember that. But in when you use LINQ, your Visual Studio will give you what to type. Okay, it is a keyword, so it will give you IntelliSense support. Okay, IntelliSense is that idea of Visual Studio understanding your code and giving you appropriate suggestions. It's a feature of Visual Studio. Okay, and you can retrieve data in different shapes and different formats from different sources. That's the idea. This is what I discussed in the previous classes. Okay, let me quickly skip this. I think I've explained that enough. So let me just go into the next one. Okay, so there are two types of syntaxes. This is very important, guys. Please listen. Okay, there are two basic ways to write LINQ based queries. Okay, and one is called as query syntax. All right, some people call it as query expression syntax. All right, this is the way which we'll be using because we all have undergone DBMS classes. So people who are already familiar with SQL need not learn something new because you already have an idea. So we can just implement that in something called query syntax. But those who are fluent in programming languages, not much in databases, will come to the second one called method syntax, or in other words, it's called method extension syntax. Some people might use the word called fluent syntax. Okay. Please understand that there are two types of syntaxes doing the same thing. Syntaxes are different. You can either use a query syntax or you can use a method syntax. There is no compulsion to use only one. Okay, you can use anything whichever you are comfortable with. I'll show you both in all these slides, but when we work with, we'll work with only query syntax. But I'm going to show you all examples with both the syntax to you. Right, let me quickly go through that. Okay, the first step in LINQ is to specify the data source. In C#, as in most programming languages, variable must be declared before it is being used. Okay, so here something we create called as range variable. Okay, please note there is something called as range variable. Those who have worked with Python, I think I've given the same example in the last class also. For example, if I write a for loop there, we write for I in range. Okay, please note that I, it's not been declared anywhere before, but we are just using it there, and that I lives only inside that for loop. The moment you come out of the for loop, that I does not live. It is dead before it comes out of that particular for loop. Okay, so what is that I there? That is a range variable. Okay, it's sometimes called as counter variable. Okay, or index variable, whatever you want to call it as. It's a variable which is declared temporarily for that block. Okay, remember that one. And it is not possible to use in Java. You cannot write in strictly written languages. You cannot write that word for I. You have to write for int I. You have to initialize it. Okay, that's not possible to use. So LINQ is going to give you somewhat Python-like syntax by giving a range variable introduction. Okay, so you'll be writing from something instead of for something. You write from something in. Okay, so whatever it is. So let me just say, give you an example. It's also followed by filtering, ordering, grouping, joining. All these things are data oriented operations. I hope you remember that. Okay, so finally we present the result, projection. Please note how LINQ query works. From the third point onwards, please do read that and understand. In a LINQ query, from comes first in order to introduce the data source and the range variable. Two things are expected in the first line itself. From where? What is the range variable? Okay. If you want to understand what is range variable, just imagine that I, for I in range in Python, that I is a range variable like that here. What do we use that I for? To print something which is holding the value every time the loop runs. Okay, just like that. Second, followed by which you have to do filtering. What is that filtering? Where, what and all conditions, and or all those things you can put in where, order by, group by, joins, everything can be written in the next second part. Third part, projected. What do you mean by projected? To retrieve and display, select. Okay, please use the keyword here. Select is also represented by the word called projection. Please remember that. Okay, let me just write it in simple. This is not the syntax, guys. Just remember, from something in some collection, select something. This is the most simplest way I can tell you how LINQ query syntax works. From something. Okay, that something is your what do you call, range variable. Okay, in is a keyword. Please note there are three keywords in that one line. From, in, select. These are keywords. Okay, something is your range variable. Collection is the collection of data or the group of data, whatever you have. Something is what you want to select. Okay, what is that something? That's the range variable. Same name as the range variable, because for I in range, print I. Okay, remember that. Same thing we are using here. So the from clause is first because it defines the context and it tells you where the collection is coming from. And then you have the first word what you see after the word from is called a range variable. Same thing what I explained now. This is the technical syntax. Okay, from range variable in I enumerable or I queryable collection. Okay, from range variable in collection. Then you have query operators. It can also be replaced with lambda expressions. Okay, but please, I'll go to lambda expressions shortly. But then remember, you can put standard query operators like where, then you have join, order by, etc., etc. Finally, you have result formation, select or group by. Okay, all those things comes there. Right, so this is the query. I'll give you examples, guys. Just let's go to that part fast. Okay, so when you have a collection of data, a common task of that is to filter. Okay, now when you go to a shopping cart, we do the same thing, right? The common task what we do in a shopping cart is we filter items. We see what are the conditions, we put a lot of conditions, and then we see our whatever data we want to pull up. Okay, so if you want to obtain only the items with the name or a number, or if you want only which is above 4 GB RAM or which has this display, which this OS, all those things, you can give some lot of filters. Okay, and those are called query expressions. They will simplify the process for us because we know what are the conditions. Okay, just look at this code, guys. I think I've explained in the last class, but let me repeat it once again. First line. Okay, the first line is a string array with game names. Okay, names of a lot of games. All right, so I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games are there. All right, so look at the query. Just ignore that I enumerable for now. Just think it's a collection, it's a list. Okay, and then subset is equal to. Look at the query. I think this should not be much difficult for us to understand. Look at the query, it'll be simple. From range variable, please note I have not created the word G anywhere in that program. Okay, from range variable in collection. What is the collection here? Collection is nothing but the string array. Okay, I hope you guys can follow. Games here is the collection of data. All this data is stored under this name. So from range variable in collection, then I have conditions where G dot length is greater than 6. By looking at this line, what do you understand? What is G here? This is each element inside the collection. Each element inside the collection. So here, how would I write the code in Python? For I in range of games or length of games. Then I'll say print if I is greater than I dot, or if I is greater than 6, print I. What do you mean by that? Print everything in games if whatever game has the string length as greater than 6. That's all. Same thing here. From range variable in collection, condition is where g dot length is greater than 6. Order by g. Okay, what do you mean by order by here? Ascending or descending? By default, it is ascending. So it will order by ascending and then print G. Select G. So what will be stored in subset? Subset will be all the games which are greater than 6 sorted in ascending order. Okay, now this is my collection. I have done some query and I took it into a subset. Okay, I extracted some data and then you can print them out and check what are the values which are there inside. Okay, this is LINQ query expression. Now, there is a keyword which I want you to remember here. Okay, please note this, guys. Deferred execution. Okay, I think I stopped with this in the last class for the presentation. But this is something which I'm introducing now. Please remember this keyword, deferred execution. You need to understand this, guys. Okay, I'll give you practical examples later, but then just go through this. In LINQ, a query is a basic language construction, not your SQL. SQL doesn't come into picture here at all. Okay, it is just considered as a simple query, which is basically a language statement. What does deferred execution mean? It means that the evaluation of an expression is delayed until its realized value is actually required. Okay, normally how we know is step-by-step execution. You write one line of code, that code will get executed, then the next line of code, then the next line of code. But when it comes to language integrated query, please remember that it is deferred execution. What do you mean by that? It gets executed only when it is called or when it is required. Okay, it will not get executed before it has been called. Just because you wrote a line and kept there, it will not get executed. It will get executed only when you take some value out of it. Okay, in other words, on demand. Okay, data is available or the line is available, the statement is available. It will not get executed automatically. It will get executed only on demand. In other words, until its realized value is actually required, it will not get executed. Okay, that execution model is called deferred execution. Some people might also refer to that as lazy execution, lazy initialization. Okay, what do you mean by that lazy initialization, lazy execution? It will not get executed as and when it is coming. It will only get executed when it is required, when it has been actually pushed or called. Okay, so it greatly improves performance when it comes to a programming language, because imagine that I'm executing a block of code and keeping and never calling it, but memory will be utilized for that. Okay, so here it will be only called when you are printing it out, when you are exactly when you require it, only it's been printed, which means when it is not required, it is not printed at all, it's not executed at all. You save memory, you save your performance here. Okay, please remember these two keywords or these 2 points when you write for that deferred execution. Okay, a LINQ query is not executed until 2 conditions. Number 1, you iterate over the query results. Okay, I'll repeat again. You iterate over the query results, or you try to access something which is there in the result of that particular operation. Okay, I'm repeating it again. You iterate over the query results, 1, or you try to access something which is there inside that result of what you have executed, the query which you have executed. Let me just quickly go back to that program. Just look at this. Okay. First line is string game, string array of games, and then you've given some list of games. That's all. Second line, please note, even though I've written it in 5 lines, it's only 1 line basically. Okay. So then why have I written it in 5 lines? For me to read it clearly, not for the system to understand. Please understand this here. Okay. I have given it, 5 lines I've written, but basically it is only 1 line according to your program, because semicolon comes only there, which means 1 line it is. Why have I written in different lines? For me to understand that this is the first line, this is the second line, and it looks neat also to read it. It's easier to understand what is happening there. If I read everything in 1 line, it look like an SQL query. That's why I'm writing it like this. But basically it's second line. Okay. Now, what I have tried to tell in the next slide is that since it is language integrated query, it is delayed execution. What is the third line? Okay, third and fourth line, if you see, one for each is written, and for each element in the subset, something is printed out. Okay. What I want you to understand here is this query, the second line is the query basically. Okay. That second line will not get executed when if, please note the third and the fourth line where I've written the for each, basically we are trying to access something from the result. What is the result? Result is subset. I hope you guys can see this. Okay, result is a subset. After this particular LINQ query has been executed, result is stored here. Now, according to how we think, this line will get executed first, which means that games will be created in the memory. Second line, this will get executed. No. Okay, we automatically think that this code will get executed. No, this code will not get executed. So when will it get executed? Okay, I run this next line for each string subset. When I access this result set, when I try to access this, then this code gets executed. This is called deferred execution. Okay, if I don't write this code and write something else here, like initializing it or creating a value on my own, all will get executed in the second line itself. But please note, I have 4 lines of code here. First line, second line, third and fourth. Okay, if I just execute the first and second line, first line will get executed, second line will not get executed. I hope you guys follow. Okay, now when will that second line get executed? When you are actually calling it. When are you calling it? Look at the third line. For each string in subset. Now you're calling it. Then this code gets executed. I hope you guys follow. This is called deferred execution. Okay, it will only execute until it will not execute unless you iterate over that query result. We did that in the third and fourth line. We iterated over that query result for each item in subset. Then you're printing items from the subset, then it will get executed. So what happens is if I remove the 3 and 4 line, nothing will happen for the second line, only first line will get executed. This is what called as deferred execution, or also called as lazy initialization or lazy execution. Okay, remember that. Okay, second option is that you try to access something, not all the items. At least if you try to access any one item from that subset, that query will get executed. Okay, that's all. Remember, this is a very, very important concept. Okay, let's look at the syntax, guys. Okay, I hope you can see the screen. Var, please note, we have used var in the in JavaScript, if you remember. Okay, in JavaScript, we just create the word var and you put a variable there. All right, here we use the word var when you are not sure of what data type can be stored there. Okay, please note, in Java, it is not as easy as just putting var there, because Java expects you to, it's a strongly typed language. Types are very important. Okay, here also it's strongly typed, but you can ask the system to determine what type of data, just like how we do in Python, PHP and all. Okay, here please note, I put var. Okay, it is a variable name. It can store integer, string, boolean, value, object, whatever you want, you can put that. Okay, it's like an object type. Var. Okay, it is not a value type, it's a reference type. Okay, please remember, it is an object. So var subset, it can hold anything. Okay, so look at that on the right hand side, you have from G in games, select G. What do you mean by that? Select everything. Select everything from games and print it. Okay, same thing, I can write it in a lambda expression. Okay, the first syntax what you see is called query syntax. The second syntax what you see is called as a method syntax. Okay, sometimes it's called as method extension syntax, or sometimes we call that as fluent syntax. Okay, for those who have looked or seen something in jQuery, we have something called chain of methods or chaining of methods. Okay, it is there in any language, but in jQuery specifically, we use that word chaining of methods. What is that? You call an object and then say dot something. Okay, we can say, let's say, if I say dot string, okay, dot to string, dot to lower. What do you mean by that? Take that value, convert it into a string, then convert everything, all the string what you have got into a lowercase. Okay, this is chaining. In other words, I'm attaching method to another method, and it goes on like that. Okay, so here what we have done here is the second syntax is called a method extension syntax, which means to that object you keep adding methods. Look at the first and the second syntax, guys. Both does the same thing. Okay, one is called as query syntax, the other one is called as a method extension syntax. Okay, I'll give you a lot of examples, but please understand the difference. All right, one looks like an SQL query. From G in games, select G. Okay, how would I write it in SQL? Select G from, select star from games, that's all. Retrieve everything from games and print it. Same code, how will I write it in a method extension syntax? Games, that's the collection, dot, method, select. What is the parameter? G goes to G. no filtering, print everything. That's all that G goes to G represent. That's a lambda expression. The way that they've written equal to and greater than, we pronounce it as goes to in some context, but basically that's called as a lambda expression. Okay, I'm not going to use the second one. We are going to use the first one because we are already very much thorough of the SQL syntax. So fluent syntax, if you are comfortable, you can use it, no issues. Okay, but only in the slide I'll be using all these things. In program, when we use query syntax. Okay, look at this. Next one. From G in games where G dot price is less than 20. Select G. Okay, reading that syntax, reading this code itself, you can understand what I'm trying to get from there. Okay, basically I'm trying to say select star from games where price is less than 20. This is my query. I've written it like that. But please note that subset, the games here is not database. It's a string array, but still, or an int array, whatever it is. I can still work with this. Okay. So please look at this. How will I write the same thing in a method extension syntax? Okay. In method extension, I'll write games dot select G goes to G, which means I want everything, but I have a condition. So I'll put dot. Please note there is one dot here, which means collection dot one method select. In that one I said select everything. Then dot another method where G goes to G dot price less than 20. Both are same, guys. According to the system, both are same. But look at the syntax. This is query syntax and this is method syntax. Okay, let me just leave it there for a minute. Follow. It is extension of methods. Games is the collection, dot select, dot where. Methods are being just added to that continuously. And within brackets, your passing is lambda expression. Here I've just said everything. Select everything. Where in that where you have a condition on that G. By the way, here G becomes the range variable. Okay. And here G goes to G dot price less than 20. Same as these two. Whichever is easier for you, we'll pick that up. Okay. It is not compulsory to learn both. One is enough. Okay, so I prefer here because this is more readable for a normal person who has just understood what is SQL. That's why I'm not taking this. Okay, this is fine, but we'll see all the syntaxes. Okay, what are query operators here? Okay, standard query operators provide more query capabilities. Okay, starting with filtering, which just we use the word called where. Projection. Okay, in other words, select. Projection is the keyword used here, but basically it just means show something. Okay, when I project something, basically I do the same thing, right? Showing something. In other words, select, retrieve, show. That's all. Any word you can use. Aggregation. Aggregation functions like sum, max, count, average, etc. We'll use all these things. Okay. Sorting, we use the word order by. Grouping, we use the word group by. Okay, and there are lots more, but I'm not going to discuss everything because it will take a long time. So let me just quickly go through standard ones alone. All right. Look at this code. I'll just keep the code here. Here I have not used query expression. Okay, but I want you to understand what will be the output. What would be the possible output here? Okay, and just think, no need to put any answer. Just look at this code and try to understand what might be the answer. First one is a collection of games. That's a string array. It's kept there. And then second line, ignore the comments. Then the second line I've written var subset is equal to games dot where. Game is a range variable here. You have to use the same word everywhere. Game goes to game dot length is greater than 6 dot order by game equal to game. Go order by the game name. All right. Select game. Please note there are three methods applied on the same object. Object name is games, which is the collection here. Okay. On that games keyword, I've said where game singular is range variable. Goes to wherever the game is length is greater than 6, which because all are string, right? So if I take each and everything and check whether the length is greater than 6, okay, this will not come into picture, and I think everything else will come. Daxter will not be there because it's less than 6, or it is 6 exactly. Okay, so we can just make it as greater than or equal to something like that if you want to include this, but if you don't want, we can just leave it like that. Okay, now inside that I'm going to say order by. Order by game, I've not told ascending or descending. If I don't have not mentioned, which means it is by default ascending. So I'll see the words which starts with B first. Okay, B is going first. Okay, and then alphabetically. We'll arrange that alphabetically because you have said order by the name of the game. Okay, whatever value is here, order by the value, which is alphabetical by default, ascending in order. Okay, and then finally you say select everything, which means it will print all the games here which has length of more than the length, the game name should be having a length of more than 6. Okay, also there should be ascending order. That's what we have mentioned, and then we are printing the subset out. Okay, that's fine. Now how will I write the same thing in query mode? Okay, query expression. Okay, let's see that. That's it. From G in games where G dot length is greater than 6, order by G, select G. Done. Okay, what is this G here? Range variable. What is the collection here? Games. Okay, this is much more readable compared to this. And this is much more clearer for a person who has understood SQL. This will be much easier. And by the way, this is not SQL query. This is still C# only. Okay, please remember that. Let's move on. Link to objects. Okay. Link to object refers to what you do over that IEnumerable collection. The old school data retrieval would be for each. We use a for each loop and then we print it. Okay, even if you want to filter, you use a for each and then you print it there. Okay, but link approach will be declarative code. Okay, you take a value, you give a collection, I retrieve that collection, I do manipulation of that collection, store it somewhere. Then I can go through that collection so that it's easy for my for each to be just printing, not to retrieve. Okay, for filtering I use link, to printing I use for each. That's all. Okay, I'll give an example. Don't bother about this. This is just an example which I got. Okay, just look at the string array. It's a string array with lot of names of the presidents. Okay, that's all. And then last line you see, this is the line which I wanted to focus, is equal to presidents, which is, by the way, I'm trying to look for one word. Okay, one particular record. So you see here, presidents is the collection dot where P goes to, okay, short form, just a range variable, P goes to P dot starts with LIN, LIN. Okay, what is it starts with? That's a string operation, if you remember. Okay, it's a string operation, starts with LIN. It will return all the words which will start with LIN because it is going through each and every president, right? So how many ever presidents have the word LIN in the beginning? Okay, all those would be, imagine if I have two presidents, okay, two persons name starts with LIN. So what should I do? Okay, after that you see one more method has been applied on it, dot first. Okay, what do you mean by this? If the system does not have an idea that it is not a unique keyword, right? So if the system thinks, what if there are more than one? Okay, so when I say starts, even though you see that in the list there is nobody having LIN, more than one, but only one person has Lincoln, only one has LIN as in the starting word. Okay, so what should I do if LIN is passed? Okay, when you run, the system does not know that there might be only one because there is no such thing as primary key here. String doesn't have that. String can have repeated characters. Okay, string array can have same character repeated again and again, not a problem. But here you see, condition is where president's name starts with LIN and then you are specifically telling, get me the first one. If there is no president, first one will be the only one. Okay, and then just write it as president. Please note this is retrieving one record from a list of records. Please remember that. How will I write the same thing in a query mode? Okay, this is what I've written there is the lambda expression method syntax. What if it's written in query syntax? As simple as this. From whatever name range variable in collection where P dot starts with Lincoln, select P. Okay, please note the entire query is engulfed inside a bracket and set dot first. Get me the first record from this collection. Okay, even though I might not get collection, there is no concept like that in C#, primary key. All right, so what they do here is get the first record. What am I trying to tell here? There is only one record. So if you say first record, that will be the only record which is retrieved. So I am narrowing it down to one record. One president's name will be stored there. I hope this is clear. Okay, let's move on. Another example. Okay. I wanted to just go through this. This is query syntax. I guess you can find out the answer. Okay. I'm not asking you to find out. Just look at the code. First line is a string. We have some data there. Second one is search item. I've given the word data. And the third one, we are creating another array. Please note string and string, text and search item are just string. but string array is a collection. Okay, so here we have used the word text. I hope you guys follow. String in C sharp, you remember it is by default a collection or an array of characters. String is a collection class. You remember that, right? Okay, because it is not the same in Java. In Java, you cannot write like that. In Java, you have to write dot caret. Here, you don't require that. You just open text off and you get the character. Okay, so string search term is equal to data. String array source is equal to text dot split. Please note that is a inbuilt method which we have split. Okay, and you're giving a character array of dot, question mark, exclamation, all these things. Okay, and what we are saying here is we are removing, or we are trying to split that entire thing into a lot of things. Okay, source. I hope you guys follow. That's the first part. That's just a string. Okay, now we use to lower, which is another important method which is there. To lower, to upper on part of C sharp string, right? Now let's go to the query along. Okay, look at the query. Match query, var match query is equal to from range variable, that you can give it as whatever you want, in text. Okay, what is the text here? The big word. You can have any number. Let's say it's a paragraph of text. Okay, in text, where word dot lower is equal to search term, which is nothing but data, to lower. Please note, I'm looking for a word called data inside a big stream. Okay, now what I'm trying to do here is making sure that the word data, even if they have put it in capital D or full caps or whatever it is, I'm going to convert the entire word into small letter and then compare. I wanted to notice this symbol here. Okay, in SQL, this symbol does not make sense, because you say, for example, select star from table name where student name equal to. Okay, please note, you just put the word equal to when it comes to SQL. But when it comes to C sharp programming, equal to means assignment. Double equal to means comparison, right? So here, what am I trying to do? Because I'm writing it in C sharp, you need to write it in double equal to. From where whatever word you are going through, dot lower, okay, dot to lower is equal to search term dot to lower. Okay, I hope you guys follow. Select that word, and then how many elements will be stored here? By the way, imagine data repeats for 4 times, which means 4 times 4 words will be added to match query, which means it will be 4 items, which means it's a collection. So this match query will be now converted into a string array. So finally what they are doing is get the count of how many elements are there in that particular collection. Get me the count and print it. Okay, we'll show examples with working. Same thing written in method syntax. Okay, text dot select, where word w goes to w dot lower equal to search term dot to lower full thing dot count. Okay, this is method syntax. This is query syntax. Okay, so let me follow. Querying collections. What can be queried? Not everything can be queried. That's what I told in the beginning. It needs to be a collection. Very important. It must implement IEnumerable interface or iQueryable interface. Okay, that's important. And almost all collections in .NET implement this particular interface called as IEnumerable. That I stands for interface, so it should be capital. Okay, I should be capital. Next word should be capital. No camel casing here. Okay. Example, what and all can you use this query against? Arrays, lists, generic dictionary like key value pair, okay, string, because string is also a collection, and other collections that implement IEnumerable. Okay, how do I query an array? Very simple. Okay, please note, look at this. It's a little bit different array because it's not a normal array, it's an array of objects. Okay, you can see book array, okay, it's the collection, right? And for inside that, each book is stored as one object, and that book is a collection of objects. Okay, please note, a book has only one thing right now, title. Okay, so title is there. Now look at the query. Titles is equal to books dot where, books is what? Collection. Books is collection. Book dot where, this is a range variable, singular, book goes to book dot title. Okay, book dot title, which means inside that book object, go to that property called title, and that title is a string, right? So I say dot contains, this is string operation, action. So what will happen here? Okay, so whichever book has the title, the keyword called action is there in any of those title, that particular book will be taken from, and then select book with select only that book's title and then print it to me. Okay, this is a way of writing it in method syntax. In query, it's much simpler. From B in books, where B dot title dot contains action, select B dot title. Done. Print that. I mean, that will be added to titles and you can just print it out. Okay, this is how you query an array. Okay. Now, this is a list. Same logic. I've not changed the code, but please note what is the difference here? No difference in the code if you notice. I just wanted to look at the code, guys. Var titles is equal to books dot where, whatever it is given, select book dot title. Look at this one. Again, I've changed it from an array to a list. No change in my code. LINQ code looks the same. I want you to understand that part. Okay. The LINQ code looks the same. Now, querying a string. How do you query a string? It's very simple because it's just like how in Python for I in str. If you have a string, what will it do? It will print each and every string one line. That's it. Okay, so here var count is equal to, I put a character. Please note this entire thing is a string. Non-letter characters in this string :8 something and all they have put. That till from double quote till this double quote is a string. And I'm saying dot. You're carrying a string itself directly. Dot where C goes to not char is letter C. Okay, if it is a non letter char, like for example hyphen or colon, etc., etc. Dot count. Okay, non-letter characters, which means space also is counted. So you count all those things, your result will be 8. You're getting the count. Okay, so this is a collection dot a method called where, and then I call another method on top of that called count. Okay, how do I write the same thing in query syntax? From C in whatever name you want to write there, where this is a collection, guys. The double quote what you see here is the collection of data, which is nothing but the array or string, which is an array of characters, where the character dot is letter C, not. Okay, please note the exclamation in front just negates whatever is given there. So if the character is a letter, okay, whichever character you are going through, if it is a letter, it will return true. But if, since you have said not, it will return false. So it will return when it is not a letter, which means like for example, this will be taken, space will be taken, this space will be taken, and also this colon will be taken, and also a number. Okay, and then select C dot count. So result will be 8. Okay. Next one, aggregation operations. Aggregation is done over a sequence like maximum of salary or min of salary. Okay, it can give you some operation over a sequence of characters or sequence of elements. Okay, these are the things which we have: average, count, max, and sum. These are aggregation methods available within LINQ framework. Okay, just an example. Count I've taken anyway. I think that's enough. But anyway, look at this. Okay, look at a simple example there. Double array of temperatures, and there are some temperatures are mentioned there. Okay, highest temperature count, which means greater than 30. How many temperatures are there? Okay, count is an aggregation function, right? So it takes temperatures and gets the count of how many people or how many values. Okay, so P goes to P, which is greater than 30. Which means all temperatures which are greater than 30. How many are there? There are 2. It will return 2. You can just print 2. Okay, that's a aggregation function. Same thing when I write it in query method, from P in temperature or T in temperature, whatever you want, that is a range variable, where P is greater than 30, select P. The entire query dot count. It will return how much is the count. By the way, when you try to access something, this dot count is accessing, right? When you access something, query will get executed. Remember that. Okay, now okay, so same code, same example, but only thing is, instead of printing how many people have greater than 30, I wanted to print what is the highest temperature we have recorded. Okay, so you see there are lists and then say temperatures dot max. Whatever collection name you have, just open the word dot max on it. Okay, that's the LINQ syntax. It returns what is the maximum value. Okay, it returns 33.6, which is the highest value in that collection. Okay, same thing here in query, we'll write it as from P in temperatures, select P. Okay, which means select everything, dot max. Give me the maximum value in that collection what I've queried right now. Okay, next one, projection. It is just printing it or converting it into a format which you can be printing. Okay, so it can be defined by the developer. That's why we use the word var. Okay, we decide how to manipulate it. Okay, we use the word select to project. That's what I told. Select many is to make another collection, not just giving. Okay, I think you would have seen that in split in Python. Okay, when I say dot split, what returns is a collection. In other words, it's a list. Split function returns a list itself to you. So select is just printing one or a basic operation, but then select many is to return a collection of values, not just one. Okay, let me just show you an example. A list of string an apple a day. Okay, it's a string collection. What is the query? Look at that. From word in words, select word dot substring 0 comma 1. Substring is a string function. Okay, what is 0 comma 1? Start from the first index, okay, which is 0. Take one character, which means first character of every word. You see the output is A, done. Okay, this is just an example of using what do you call select. Okay, you can use projection. This is just printing out one value at a time. Okay, same thing how you have done it in method syntax. Words dot select, w goes to w dot substring 0 comma 1. Okay, select is the keyword here. Now here select many. Now look at this, it returns 9 strings, that one. Okay, wherever it is split with space. All right, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, it will return a collection of 9 characters. Okay, this is a big string which has 3 important data, and we are taking each and everything. Select many, not as one, I want it as a collection of values. So I say sentence dot select many. Segment is just a range variable, goes to segment dot split with space. So wherever you find space, split them and then add them into one. Select it as many. From many collection. Okay, please note there are 3 strings here. Each string has another 3 things. But I'm trying to get everything possible from there and then put it here. Okay, so all the words have been collected into one and I'm printing it out. Okay, the use case for this will be very less, but select will be used most of the time. Conversions. Okay, let me quickly finish this. Okay, what do you mean by conversions here? To whatever type you want to convert it. Okay, so I'll use this a lot when it comes to our grid view. Okay, if you want to display that into a grid view, we convert that from a normal thing or a data set into a list which will be printed by your grid view. Okay, so we use the word as and to and all those things. Here you see that entire thing, you can just use the word to list. Okay, this is also part of LINQ. All right, to list, converting the entire collection what you have into a list or into an array or as an array. Okay, sorting can be done by just using the word order by descending, then by descending, reverse. These are all inbuilt query operators available inside language integrated query. Okay, I've just given an example, just go through this. Okay, I'll give you an example in the next class. When we work with databases, we will be using all these things. Sorting. Okay, grouping, same thing. We do that if I have, for example, this is my collection of data, I group them. So all ABC, AB, AC, like that, it is there, the data. If I group them, I'll get 3 different collections with all similar items in grouped. Okay, so we'll see that also. And we have something called lookup based on key and element. I'll show you examples when we work with it. Please look at the keywords alone. Group by, to look up, distinct. That's also a keyword from the database itself. Distinct. Okay. I've just put an example, guys. Just look at this. Okay. With this, I'll stop for now. Okay. Just look at the code here. Var people equal to new array. Okay. We are creating new objects of people. Name equal to something. Town equal to something. Okay. So there are names here. Please note, names are all unique, almost unique, but the towns are repeating. So I'm going to group by town. So look at this. Var people by towns is equal to from P in people, group P by P dot town. So what will happen? There are 2 people from the town of Sofia. So they'll be grouped into one. And from Plovdiv, there'll be 2 people. They'll be grouped into one. Okay, that will be the output. And how do you print it here? We print with the key. The key here is the name which we have printed. Okay, so the key what is done here is the town name. Town name Sofia, you have 2 people. In the town name Plovdiv, you have 2 more people. That can be printed. You can try this. I'll show that in the next class also. Okay. So the same thing if I write it in method syntax, people dot group by. T goes to T dot town. That's all. Okay, same code written in method syntax. Okay, I put another example with just numbers, just for your understanding. Okay, so I have some numbers here, random numbers have been put, and I said from n in numbers, group n by n mod 3. Okay, what do you mean by that? Okay, so here what we are trying to do is we are going to divide each and every number by 3, and we are seeing what is the remainder. In other words, mod. Okay, I'm going to mod every number by 3. So I'll be getting some result, right? So if I mod result by 3, I'll get 2. 4 if I put, I'll get 1. 1 if I mod by 3, I'll get 1. Okay, 3 again, like that it goes on like this. Okay, so what I've done here is we are trying to group that number by n mod 3, which means you can see the output here, guys. The last line, you can see what is the output. Ignore the for each. The output would be remainder. You can see the output how I have printed here. Remainder key. What is the key? What is the answer I'm getting here? If I divide each number, the maximum I'll get is 0, 1 or 2. Because any of these numbers, if you say, if it is 2, you have 0 and 1 only option. If it is 3, the output can be 0, 1 or 2. Alright. So if I remove 3 from here, 5, okay, you'll get 2. 4 means you'll get 1. 1 means you'll get 0. Sorry, 1 means you'll get again 1 only. 3 means you'll get 0. 9 means you'll get 0. 6 means you'll get 0. Okay, and 0 also you'll get 0 when you mod that number. Okay, so I'm grouping it by the remainder what I get. Remainder I'll get 0, 1 or 2. In 0, I have 3, 9, 6, 0. These are the numbers which I get 0 when I mod them. 1, 4, 1, 7, 2, 5, 8, 2. Okay, this is how you group by. Output would be based on the key what comes, key values which you are grouping them by. Okay, so with that I'll stop for today. Just put that here.